what I call the me bird. So anybody know what this is?
It's a Cape Robin.
Yes, exactly. So now it's called a Cape Robin chat because they realized that, of course, it's not a robin at all. It was called a robin by the first British people who came here and started identifying birds because it had the same little red or little orange patch under the bill. And so they thought it looked like the British robin, so they called it a robin. But it's not a robin, it's a chat. So it's called a Cape Robin chat. And that's me because I'm from the Cape. My name's Robyn and I like to chat. So this is why I call it a me bird. So I'm going to tell you first of all about the most common garden birds. So that robin is very, very common. It's all over the country. You get them in everybody's garden. They're what we call skulkers. They like to be on the ground. They're turning over leaves looking for worms, those sort of things. In Afrikaans, it's called a Jan Frederik because the call that it makes, they say it sounds like it's saying Jan Frederik, like that. And yeah, everybody should have them in their garden. Very, very common to see them. But certainly the most abundant bird in the village and all over is no longer the sparrow. It always used to be sparrows. Sparrows were what we in Afrikaans called a mossie. Used to be the most common bird, but these days it's this little guy here. So this is a Cape white-eye. Lots and lots of Cape white-eyes in Franschhoek. I have ringed hundreds in the wildflower garden behind the Huguenot Museum, and I'll tell you about ringing a little bit later. So these little guys you must definitely see in your garden. They're always in a small flock, not a huge flock, but there will be a small flock of them. That white ring that's around their eye is actually little feathers. The tiniest, tiniest little white feathers that make that ring. Very, very pretty little bird. They only weigh, they weigh about 10 to 11 grams. And they love to drink from the nectar feeders, if you have nectar feeders in your garden. What else? Overseas they are called silver eyes. Very similar looking birds, same family, but they call them silver eyes and we call them white eyes. I've also just mentioned on each slide whether these birds are endemic or not. So endemic means that they are only found in South Africa. If it says endemic, that means only within the borders of South Africa and nowhere else in the world. So we have lots and lots and lots of endemic birds. There are over 950 species of birds in South Africa. In the UK, they have about 250. Well, not the whole of the UK, in England. England has about 250. We have 950. So we've got a huge amount of birds in this country. And a good number of them are endemic. The word Cape in front of the bird's name, and you will see there's lots of birds that have the name Cape in front of it, does not mean Cape Town, and it doesn't mean the Western Cape at all. It means Southern Africa. So not even South Africa, it means Southern Africa. So don't be confused. If you see the word Cape, it doesn't mean that it occurs in Cape Town. We have a thing called a Cape glossy starling that doesn't come anywhere near us. It only occurs in the north of the country. Okay, so we have a little competition for you tonight. Does anybody know what this is? If you do, you can put your answer in the chat. This is a baby. We know it's a baby because it's very spotted and speckled. So many of the birds have babies have got this sort of like speckling on it, and it's to help them camouflage in the nest so that predators can't see them easily. So if you can guess what this little one is, you can put your answer in the chat and I'll have a look at the end. I can't see the chat now because I've got the screen on. So I'll have a look at the end and see if anybody's got the right answer. And then I'll give you a little prize. So have a guess. Right, this is the next very, very common bird that you will see in your garden. He also has a white eye, but it's not feathers. This white ring is actually what we call like a wattle. It's skin, it's bare skin. So there's no feathers there at all. If you know what this one is, I'm sure you're going to guess. It is a bulbul. So that's the Cape bulbul. We have 3 different bulbuls in South Africa, but in this area we only have the specific one. And this one is a fynbos endemic. So you'll see there's a couple of birds coming up that are fynbos endemics. That means they're only found in fynbos. And as you may know, that's our vegetation here. It only occurs where we are, here on the west, the southwestern tip of South Africa, and then all along the garden route as far as Port Elizabeth, but hugging the coastline, and then also going up a little bit up the west coast, but about as far as, does it go? Yeah, Langebaan, or a bit further than that. That's also fynbos, but also only along the coastline, not inland. So fynbos is a very, very small area, and we have a couple of birds that literally only occur in this area. So we have a lot of overseas birders, especially from the UK. There's a lot of, they're quite big twitchers there, and they like to come to South Africa and see all these specific fynbos endemic birds that you can only see here. So this little bulbul is also called a butterbum because he's got a nice yellow vent. Loves to eat fruit. If you put fruit out in the garden, he'll come and eat the fruit. Okay, these guys, anybody know what they are? Cape canaries. So they're also endemic to South Africa, not to the fynbos. We have many different canary species in South Africa, but this is the one that you'll see all the time in your garden. These are the guys that like the pine trees. So not many birds like to be in the alien vegetation, the alien trees, but these guys love it. And they'll be in quite a large flock, and they chirp and sing beautifully all the time. So when you walk past a big line of pine trees, and you'll hear these birds going crazy, and it's them. So the female is in the top right, top left-hand side, and I love that photo. She's sitting in a bush of wild rosemary that has now flowered, and this is the seeds that have come out. And it really reminds me of, you know, the British in the World War II, you have those, what do you call them, sergeant majors in the British Army with their huge big moustaches. That's what this bird always looks like to me. So the female, as you will see, has a bit of gray on her breast. And then the male, which is at the bottom, does not have any gray on the breast. He only has gray on his head. He's more yellow than gray. They're quite it's almost like an olive yellow. It's a greeny yellow. It's not a very bright yellow. So you might, yeah, you will see that in your garden. Okay, then this is the sparrow. So we do still have sparrows. They're just not as numerous and abundant as what they used to be in the old days. And this is because of the crop spraying. So crop spraying has really hit these birds quite dramatically. And we've got the two different kinds of sparrows. So the first one is the house sparrow, which is an alien. It comes from Europe. It was brought here. It's not ours, but they have, they really have gone quite prolific. And they are actually threatening our own one, which is the Cape sparrow. It says near endemic. So a near endemic means almost only in South Africa. So they do cross over a little bit over the borders into our neighboring countries, but not too far. You won't find them in the whole of Africa. But these poor birds are really suffering, and the house sparrow is taking over a lot of their territory. So how you know the difference, can you see this big white C around its ear here? So if you see a sparrow that's got this big white C on it, then it is a Cape sparrow. If it doesn't have that white C, then it is a house sparrow. So the top two are the males and the bottom two are the females of these respective birds. Okay, so you may or may not have seen these around the village. Sometimes they're a little bit difficult to see because they're teeny tiny, as you can see. That's my hand there holding it when I ringed it. This is a Sui waxbill. So Sui is because that is actually the sound that they make when they call. They're absolutely beautiful. They are endemic to South Africa. So they are all over South Africa. The male is this one here in the top left, and he has a black face. The female does not have a black face. So that's how you can tell them apart. They have this beautiful red rump. So when they fly away from you, you often just see this flash of red on a very tiny little bird. Then you'll know that that's a Sui waxbill, even if you don't get to see them very well. I love the fact that they've got this two-tone bill, very cute. And where do you find them? They love to come to the feeders as well. They like to eat the seeds on your bird feeder. They also love grass seeds. So they often find them in your grass, on your lawn. They'll be eating in the lawn. And they'll be in a little small flock. And as you walk towards them, then they all fly away. So you'll see them as they fly. Okay, this is our shrike. That is, this poor bird has a serious identity crisis. It's had so many names since I started looking at birds in 2002. At the moment, it is now called a southern fiscal. It used to be called a fiscal shrike, then it became a common fiscal. Now it's a southern fiscal. It's also called a butcher bird, so you may know it as a butcher bird. It's called a Jackie hangman. In Afrikaans, it's called a laksman. He has a very, very sharp little pointed bill, a little hook on the end of its bill, because this is the guy that he will kill everything, and even little birds. And I'm going to show you something that they do now. But before I do that, I want you to just see that this is a male on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side is a female. And you can see the difference because of that. The female has this little, what we call rufous. This color is known as rufous in the birding world, like a rusty color. She has that under her wing, which the male does not have. So this is what they do. They like to catch their prey and they impale it on something. Used to always be thorn trees. So if you've got a thorn tree, any acacia tree in your garden, they do use the thorn still, but they love barbed wire. So barbed wire is the absolute friend of the what they call now the southern fiscal, and they will not necessarily put this on here to be eaten later. By the way, this is often a male who will string up a whole bunch of insects or even frogs or little mice, the tiniest little mice I have found that's been impaled on this barbed wire. They put it there as a way of attracting females because it shows the female that they can provide food. So many of these, especially this one here at the bottom, this bottom right-hand side, this thing was rock hard. It had been out on this thing for a very long time. Nobody was going to come and eat that. So this is not always for food. I was going to show you a picture of the little mice, but it was so sad. I didn't want to put it on. I didn't want to upset everybody. Okay, then this little one you also, I'm sure, will have seen. It's called a Cape wagtail. Why? Because he wags his tail up and down all the time, constantly, as he walks. Very familiar. They don't mind people. They like to be around people. They'll often come and sit on walk around your garden, come onto your patio, and then if your doors are wide open, they'll somehow walk inside your house. They don't have a problem. Male and female look exactly the same. Yeah, and they've got a very nice little call as well, which you can get quite used to. So they can become quite tame. And then, of course, you all know what these noisy things are, our dear hardy-daws. So hardy-daws, both male and female look exactly the same. They're quite nice actually because they aerate your garden, they aerate your lawn. So that bill has got a very sensitive tip, and they're looking for things that are deep in the ground. So they stick that bill deep down into the soil, and that little tip will then sense something that they can eat. But of course, they're very noisy and they make a lot of mess, we know. Them and of course, our next guy, which is the Egyptian goose. By the way, in Afrikaans, it's called a kolgaans, and a kol means a dot, and that's the dot. So it's because of that they get the Afrikaans name. So both of these two species are very noisy, makes lots of mess, and everybody hates them. But it's our own fault. They have moved down into our area where they never used to be before, because we've made beautiful habitat for them. So they love the big manicured lawns of golf courses. So all these golfing estates that have come up all over the country in the last 20 years has made a beautiful path for them to come all the way down south from up north where they used to be. So we can't complain. If we're making beautiful golf courses, you're going to have to sit with these lovely birds. Okay, so those are the very most common ones that you're going to find in everybody's garden. Now I'm going to show you a couple of other relatively common garden birds, but perhaps you may not have seen them. So this is also a canary. He's very yellow, whereas I told you that the Cape Canary is not as bright yellow. It's kind of more dull. This guy is very bright, but look at his bill. He's got a very extremely big, hard bill that cracks seeds. Definitely a seed eater. And believe me, this guy can bite. I'll show you now. And he is called a brimstone canary. They are in Franschhoek. I've ringed quite a few of them, and I ringed one on Saturday. And look what he was doing to me. It's very painful. So they do bite. There are birdies that love to bite when you're holding them, and especially these ones with these huge bills. Also sings very pretty, but never in a flock. He's always just singular or with a mate. So whereas the Cape Canaries are always in a big flock, these ones are never in a flock. Okay, this is a bird you may not ever have seen. It is a fynbos endemic, so that means it really only occurs here where we live, and it's called a Cape siskin. It's similar colors to the Cape Canary. It's also yellow and gray. So often when you see them in a flock, people confuse them with the Cape Canary. But if you look at that, on their wings, they've got these little white dots, and they're very easy to see. When they're flying away from you, you can see those white dots very clearly. Those white dots are only on the siskin. The Cape Canary doesn't have them. So if you see the white dots, then you know that you're looking at a siskin and not at a canary. But they're not abundant. You don't find them everywhere. So I haven't seen siskins actually in Franschhoek for quite a while now. So I'm looking out for them to see when I'm going to see them again. This guy you will all know. I'm sure you've all had them in your gardens before. Cape sugarbird. Also a fynbos endemic, only occurs here where we live. This is obviously the male because he's got this super long tail. The male and female look exactly the same, but the female's tail is half of that length. Now I want you to have a good look. I don't know, I didn't enlarge it, but if you can have a look at those claws, look at the nails on his claws. Those nails is what he's so special for. These guys are specialist protea eaters. So when the southeaster is howling and the protea plants are almost horizontal on the ground, these guys can hold on with those claws. Those claws dig deep into the petals of the protea, and they can hold on for dear life, and they can still feed in the strongest of winds. So that is their speciality. It's also their downfall because, you know, we have protea farms here that people grow proteas for export. And those farmers do not like holes in their petals. So there was a time when they were actually out to get these sugarbirds, and they were killing them on quite a rate on the farms to try and get rid of them so that they could stop damaging their export quality proteas. Of course, that doesn't work because there are so many of these birds. If you kill a whole bunch, another bunch is just going to move in their place, as what always happens. And they have now been educated into the fact that they shouldn't be doing that, so that it has actually stopped. That practice no longer happens, but they were going through quite a bit of a hard time at one point. Beautiful birds, love to see them. That tail flies so beautifully when the wind is blowing. It's awesome. Okay. At your feeder, you may have come across this guy. He's very small. This is the male, the black and white is a male, and he is a pin-tailed wider. Not endemic, they're all over the show. He's got this super long tail when he's in breeding colors. And this is the female up here on the right-hand side, and this is a juvenile at the bottom. So he's very aggressive. He's the guy who's going to come to your bird feeder and he's going to chase away the biggest pigeons and doves and make everybody scatter so that his harem of females can come and eat. He'll have about 3 or 4, maybe even more females, and he will be flying up above them just like what he's doing in this photo, and he's going to make sure that everybody else stays away. The funny thing that he's actually he's looking at a juvenile is that they never see their offspring because they are parasitic birds. So they don't ever sit on their own eggs. They don't raise their own young at all. They will lay their eggs in that sweet wax ball that you looked at earlier. They will lay eggs in their nest or otherwise the common wax ball. So yeah, I don't know why he's he's having a bit of an altercation there with, might even be his own offspring and he doesn't know it. Very aggressive little bird. People don't like them near the bird feeder because they tend to chase away everything else. But such a beautiful thing to look at. Really a beautiful bird. Okay, this is a bird that has moved into the village in recent years. They're now quite abundant here. I see them every single day. You will always find them in pairs, always in pairs, never in a group of more than two. And it's called a fork-tailed drongo. So you can see the tail is obviously very forked. It's got a very deep fork. It is a completely black bird, which is unusual. We don't have many birds that are completely black. So it's quite easy to identify actually. And their call that you'll hear them from the top of the trees. They sit in the top of the tallest of trees. They'll sit on one spot and they are insect eaters. So they'll fly from their perch, grab something in the air and then fly back to the same perch. So that's what they do all the time when they're feeding, and then they squeak. They sound like, to me, it always sounds like a rusty piece of metal that's breaking, is the way that their call is. It's very strange. So if you hear this very odd call that you may not know, and it's high up in a tree, have a look and you'll see these birds flying from their perch and back again. And then you'll know that it's the fork-tailed drongo. There's lots of them here in the village. You will see them. Okay, this is a tiny, tiny little bird. One of my absolute favorites. I love this little thing so much. The bigger picture, this one is the female. She's got the rufous under the chin here. And this is the male who doesn't have any color under his chin, but he's got a big black breast. So this is the one that I ringed over the weekend in Andrea's garden, and it is a Cape Batis. We have quite a few different Batises in South Africa, but in the Cape we only have this particular one. We don't get any of the others here where we live. It is a near endemic. You'll get them all over the country and then over a little bit over the borders. There's usually just a pair. They don't have any. They don't form flocks at all, and they're quite. They're not rare, but they're just not usually abundant. So you'll get one or two in a fairly large area. They are definitely around though. I hear them quite often. Okay, these ones also these are probably ones that you're all cursing as well, especially now in winter. It's a starling. We have many different species of starling in South Africa, but this one is obviously the red-winged starling. As you can see, he's got red wings. This is the one that flocks in big flocks in winter, and they fly around the village and they sit on everybody's trees and they make a noise and they make a mess. I love their call very much. In Afrikaans, they're called a spreeu, S-P-R-E-E-U. And that is because the call that they make, they say spreeu, spreeu, spreeu all the time. And I think it's beautiful. It's very calming for me, but I'll never forget Danielle. I don't know if any of you ever knew Danielle van der Hocht. She used to own the Corner House Guest House, the corner of, what is it, Van Riebeeck and Uni Street. And I used to do her bookkeeping because that's what I did back in the day. And I was sitting in her house and she came inside and she said, "What is that noise?" And I was working away and I wasn't really listening. And then I thought, oh, I stopped and I listened, and I'm listening for a jackhammer or a very noisy car or something terrible. And I said, "I can't hear anything." And she said, "Come outside." And it was these birds in the tree. And I thought, oh, that beautiful call. To me, it was such a beautiful call. And for her, it was the worst noise she'd ever heard. So I think they're awesome. I love them going around the village, but I know lots of people don't like them and chase them away from their trees. Okay, and then the next bunch of birds that we get in the village are called mouse birds. There are 3 different kinds of mouse birds in South Africa, and we get all 3 of them here in Franschhoek. I don't know if any of you have ever seen any of these. This one you might not have seen. This one is endemic to South Africa. It's called a white-backed mousebird. So this is its back that I'm opening up here when I ringed it. So it has actually 3 different colors. It's got this beautiful maroon color here at the bottom, black on either side, and then the white. When it flies away from you, you actually do only really see the white very clearly, which is obviously why it got that name, although it's got all 3 colors there. Very pretty little thing, and they've got really long tails, and I'll show you that now. There we go. Those are the other 2. They all have these super, super long tails. And they're always in a family group, and they fly together as a family group from one bush to another. And then they will sit like this with their legs apart. They always look like, to me, they look like the prostitute birds. They're getting sun. They will face the sun, and they want the sun on their bellies, which I think is very cute. And they use their tails. You can see how their tails are. They use it to stabilize themselves when they are on the bushes. This is the red-faced mousebird, and this color of his feathers is like a weird greeny gray metallic. It's beautiful, but it's such a strange color. And then this is the speckled mousebird. So you can look out for them, because we definitely get all 3 of them. They also love fruit. So if you put fruit out on your bird feeders, they very often will come and eat that fruit. Or if you have a bush that's got berries, they love that. They'll come and eat all the berries. Okay, doves and pigeons, very, very common in our area, as they are over the whole country. This is a laughing dove. Strangely enough, they have kind of almost disappeared to an extent. They used to be the most common dove when I was a child. Nowadays, I struggle to find one. So they also are under a bit of a threat, I think. But these are the 2 that you'll see everywhere and all day. The red-eyed dove and the Cape turtle dove, which has now got a name change. It's now just called a ring-necked dove. But these are the 2 that you will hear all the time. The red-eyed dove tells you when he calls, he says, "I am a red-eyed dove. I am a red-eyed dove." So he tells you who he is. And this guy used to say, "I'm turtle, I'm turtle." But now he has to say, I'm ring-necked, I suppose. No, that's not going to work so well. So you just listen to the call. You don't actually have to see them. They look very similar. When they are sitting in a tree, you can't really tell the difference very easily between them. And then we have our beautiful one. Look at this one. This is the one that everybody complains about. Sits on your roof, makes that noise, likes to breed in the roofs and in the eaves and in your gutters and things. But it's so beautiful. It's really one of the most beautiful doves or pigeons that I've ever seen in my life. I think they're absolutely stunning. Big and fat, you can't miss them, with that big red eye. That's also a wattle, doesn't have any feathers on that red part around the eye. It's just skin. But wow, what a beautiful bird. Love it. Okay, so in Franschhoek, we get quite a couple of raptors. This one, you probably all know what this is. This is the sound of South Africa. It's the one where it throws its head back and makes a beautiful call. And then when they do all these wildlife programs, they will always play this one's call. So that is the African fish eagle. So do you know that we have a pair of fish eagles that nest here in Franschhoek? In front of the Berg River Dam, if you go down the R45 out of town, where you would turn right to go to Paarl, past the prison, if you turn left at that place, at that junction, turn left towards the dam. So the dam wall is there, and in front of the dam wall is the river, and there is one tree left that has this nest, and there it is. So this is what the nest looks like at the moment. This nest has been used more than 30 years, probably a lot more than that, but that's sort of the longest that I can get anybody to confirm that they know that it's been there. This is not recent. This is a couple of years ago. There's one of the birds sitting on the nest. Now this is, when you drive in there, you will see this dead tree with this nest on it. It's the only one left. That place used to be full of dead trees, and about 3 years ago, somebody went and chopped all those trees down, except the one with the nest on. And I was really horrified. I thought these birds would never come back and nest again, because they do need vantage points. They need those other trees to sit on. And surprise, surprise, they did come back. So I was very happy about that. They have bred every single year that I've been here, but this year I'm a bit concerned. I went at the beginning of June and I saw them on the nest, and I have never seen them again. They've disappeared. So I go there quite regularly to check, and I do check at different times of the day because they obviously do go and feed, and they're not there. So I'm a bit worried that they are not going to breed this year. So we will see if they still come back. They do breed very late here in Franschhoek for some reason. The rest of the country, they're already sitting on eggs now. But ours can breed a bit later, and then I've seen the juvenile on the nest in February, which normally they fledge a lot earlier than that in the rest of the country. So possibly they will still come back and do it. So I'll have to keep checking. The African harrier hawk, this used to be called a gymnogene, which is a much nicer name. I prefer that. This is the guy that they're in your garden. He flies over Franschhoek all the time. He comes and he jumps from branch to branch, limb to limb in the tree, looking for nests because he raids birds' nests. He eats baby birds. He's the one. He's a bit double jointed. He can stick that leg underneath the eaves of your roof, and he can fetch baby birds out of there. I've seen them do that. They normally got a yellow face. This one's face, it looks a little bit red, but they usually got a yellow. It's bare skin. There's no feathers on that face. But this is when they are wanting to mate, or just after they've mated, their face goes red. It's almost like they're blushing. And then very quickly it goes back to yellow. So yellow is their normal color. Beautiful gray. When you see them flying overhead, you will see this very gray bird with this very defined black line around it. Very easy to identify. And also this white, big, broad white stripe on its tail makes it very easy to identify. I'm sure many of you will have seen them before. Okay, this is a guy that you're never going to see, but you hear him. That's why I've put him here. It's an African goshawk. In the morning, when you wake up and you go outside, or even if you're sitting in your lounge or something, you might hear this bird that goes tick, 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 tick. It does that constantly, early in the morning, but it's high up in the sky. So it's not something sitting in your garden. He's not sitting in a tree. He's flying high up in the sky, marking his territory. And that's what he does. He flies in like a square pattern, and he clicks at the corner of each corner of his square. So that's why I put him here, just in case you all heard this funny tick sound in the morning, then you know that it's this guy. But to see him actually is almost impossible. So don't look for him in the tree. This is our summer migrant. So this is our steppe buzzard or common buzzard. It's mostly known as a common buzzard nowadays. Very common here in Franschhoek in the summertime. So they come from the steppes in Russia, and they'll get here sort of end of September, beginning of October. They don't breed here. They're coming here for their summer holidays. And yeah, you'll see them on every street, what do you call it, lamppost and telephone pole from here between us and Paarl. You'll see them, so many of them. They've got this sort of whitish window here in the middle, but it's very variable. So the front of them can change. They don't all look exactly like this. But very brown, not much brown and white, not much else, with this big yellows, with this part of its nose is called a sear. It's always got a very yellow sear and this dark eye. So yeah, when you're driving to Paarl, just have a look on the poles and you will see this bird. But this is the other one that's on the pole. But this is our resident guy. So he's a jackal buzzard. He's endemic to South Africa and he lives here permanently. So he doesn't go away. He's always around and he sits on the same poles. So they will alternate. You'll see there's a jackal buzzard on one pole and the next pole might be a steppe buzzard, and then there's a jackal buzzard and then there's a steppe buzzard. So they kind of hang out in the same areas. Jackal buzzard, when he flies, has got, if you look up at the sky, you will see he's got this beautiful rufous tail, which is very easy to see. And he's got this big white panel in the wing and this black line on the outside. And then this, if you can see it, you'll see this rufous chest, but that's not always so easy to see when they're flying. But otherwise, quite an easy bird to identify when it's up above you and it's flying in the air. This is our other summer migrant that comes, and he lives in the same place as the steppe buzzard. They both come from the steppes in Russia, but the yellow-billed kite tends to come about 3 weeks before the steppe buzzard does for some reason. They don't like to fly together. This kite has quite a distinctive tail, sort of like this wedge-shaped tail. And he will be on the same road between us and Paarl as the steppe buzzard, but he's not sitting on the poles. He is flying low over the road. So when you're driving and you see this big brown raptor that's sort of flying really low over the cars, you look up and you will see this it's called a yellow-billed kite because it has a very yellow bill, and it's very easy to see. So you will notice this big yellow bill, and it's a very brown bird, and you'll see this wedged tail, and then you know that it's a yellow-billed kite. And then this is our other kite, but this is a much smaller guy, and he lives here permanently. So he used to be called a black-shouldered kite. Now he's called a black-winged kite. So it's just recently had a name change. Fairly smallish bird. He's the one that hovers. So you'll see him hovering over some piece of felt, looking for mice or looking for rodents or snakes or whatever it is that he wants to eat. Really a beautiful bird, but very aggressive. Yeah, and so not so big, and very white. So when you see this white thing, you see he does sit on the telephone lines. Now he doesn't sit on the pole, he sits on the line itself, not on the pole. You'll see them in summertime. There's one on every kilometer. You'll find one of these. Very white to look at when he's sitting on the wire, and then just with the black in the wings. Very pretty. Okay, now we've got owls. Now you know that Franschhoek has owls, and you'll know that this is the spotted eagle owl. Very, very common. All over Franschhoek, they're everywhere. You hear them at night, you hear them in the morning. He's the one who goes, hoo, hoo. Okay, he makes that call. And it's usually a duet. There'll be a pair and they'll be calling to each other. You see them especially in the eucalyptus trees. They like to sit in the eucalyptus trees, but also the oak trees. But many people get them confused. So I've put in this slide so that I can show you the difference between a spotted eagle owl, which is seriously common, and the Cape eagle owl, which is extremely rare. So you're not going to be seeing the Cape eagle owl in Franschhoek. I can guarantee you that. This one here on the left is the Cape eagle owl. That's the spotted eagle owl. Cape eagle owl has got very blotchy markings on its body. The spotted eagle owl has got barring. Can you see this? Looks like bars. It's straight lines. It's not blotchy. This guy is blotchy as heck. Look at the difference in the feet. This guy has got massive, massive, massive feet. This guy's got much smaller feet. He's much bigger in size, but you can't see that unless they're sitting next to each other. So the size part doesn't help you when you're looking at it in the tree. Don't worry, the books will tell you that this one's got an orange eye and this one's got a yellow eye. That's nonsense. Okay, that's a fallacy. You can't rely on that as an indicator, so don't look at the eyes. It's the blotching on the front that is the difference. And then, of course, also the habitat. The Cape eagle owl only nests and sits on cliff faces, on rocks. It never comes into a town, into a village. It doesn't sit in a tree. It won't sit on your roof. It stays out in the countryside. It stays out where there are rocks and cliff faces. So you will never, ever see a Cape eagle owl in Franschhoek. I've had so many people come to tell me that they saw a Cape eagle owl sitting in the church. It's not, promise. Okay, I made that for you so that you can see. Okay. Lapwings, these used to be called plovers, now they're called lapwings. This crowned lapwing, you never see them anymore. Used to be so abundant, now I almost never see them, which is very strange. They used to always nest on school playgrounds and on rugby pitches and things like that, but nowadays you just don't see them. but you do see this guy a lot. So this is the blacksmith lapwing. He's always next to water. So we see them at the reservoir, in Reservoir Road. There's 3 of them there at the moment. And mostly where there's water, you will find a blacksmith lapwing. Then we also get flycatchers. So this is the African dusky flycatcher, but he's not here all the time. He moves around. He's very nomadic, so he doesn't live here. He will move around quite often. So you may not see this one too much. But look at this beautiful baby. Oh, this is my favorite. Absolutely love this bird. Paradise flycatcher, African paradise flycatcher, and he only comes to us in the summer. He's nomadic. He doesn't go to another country. He just moves around a lot. So he's not with us in anything other than summer, but such a beautiful bird. The female looks exactly the same, but she's got a very much smaller tail. It's about 1/3 of that length. Just absolutely stunning. But they also like water. I've seen them in the village. If you're walking down Dirkie A Street or Academy Street and you walk past those rivers, those little channels that are bringing water from the mountain, I've seen them there in those channels because they like sort of like foresty types of, big tall trees. You won't find them in the fynbos, but so beautiful. Then this is the fiscal flycatcher. Now, fiscal flycatcher, you may confuse with that fiscal shrike that we looked at earlier. But I'll show you now what the difference is. Also an endemic bird. Here's the 2 together so that you can see what the difference is. It's the white stripe on the wing. Can you see they both have a white stripe? A shrike it's up to shoulder. So think of shoulder and shrike. The white stripe goes up to the shoulder. And the flycatcher, it's an upside down Nike tick. The white does not go all the way up the shoulder. So if you see the bird from the back, that's the easiest way to tell them apart. Sunbirds, of course, we have beautiful sunbirds. We have 4 different kinds of sunbirds here in Franschhoek. This is our favorite, the orange-breasted sunbird. It is endemic only to the fynbos area. So you won't find it anywhere else other than in fynbos. And we have them, of course, here in Franschhoek. Not in your garden, though. This is the one bird that will not come to your nectar feeder. But you do find them in the wildflower garden behind the monument. I have ringed them there, but they like mountains. So they are up on the mountain slopes or Roberts Flay Road. You will find them on the dirt road of Roberts Flay Road by Glenwood Vineyards. They're there. So they don't like people. They don't like houses. You won't find them where there's a bunch of people. But this is definitely my favorite sunbird. Absolutely beautiful. And that's the female. So the female is always brown, but the orange-breasted does have this little bit of yellowy orange on the breast, so you can actually see. They're the tiny, tiny little bird, so she's also very, very small. And then the other tiny one is the southern double-collared sunbird, and this is his female. She's just really brown. There's not much color going on there at all, so they can be very confusing, these 2. But that's the male. He's also tiny, tiny, tiny little bird. So this is the southern double-collared sunbird. It has red, but it's a small little bit of red here. We also get a greater double-collared sunbird, and his red is about double that. But we do not get the greater in Franschhoek. So Franschhoek, you will not find it. You will find them in Kirstenbosch. The 2 of them will be there together, but not in Franschhoek. And then this is my other favorite, this beautiful amethyst sunbird. Absolutely love this bird. They are also a species that have just moved into the far southwestern Cape. They never used to be this far. They came here about 15 years ago. They suddenly started moving into this area. So there's lots of these in Franschhoek. I have a nectar feeder here on my balcony here in the main road. And I have a pair that come and drink the whole bottle out, the 2 of them together. So absolutely beautiful. He's completely black. He used to be called a black sunbird, but now he's called an amethyst sunbird. And he's got this, when the sun shines on him, this beautiful purple here and on the wings and on his head and also on his back, which you can't see in this photo. And that's his female. So she's very blotchy. She's kind of a yellow-black blotched thing here with a black face. So she's quite easy to distinguish compared to the other two that just look so brown. And then, I just love them so much. Sorry, I put lots of photos in. Look at this whole family drinking together from my nectar feeder. I've never seen so many birds drinking together at one time. And that's what their nest looks like. And then this is a nest that was in our garden that I took from the window, the little one waiting for his food. Very scruffy looking nests. They use moss a lot and a lot of pine needles and then spider webs to hold it all together. And then this is the big guy. So this is the beautiful, the jewel, the malachite sunbird. Isn't he gorgeous? That's him in complete breeding colors. And he's the one with the super long tail, and he's much bigger than the others. He's like double the size of the other smaller birds. And this is me on the weekend. I managed to catch one over the weekend on Sunday. And I mean, look how beautiful. He's in full breeding plumage. He only has this tail while he's breeding. And then when he's not breeding, he loses this tail. These are his little pectoral tufts, this little bit of yellow. When his wing is down, you can't see it. I had to lift the wing up to see that. And when he's trying to woo his female, then he pops those little yellow feathers out straight underneath, and she can see them. And that's him trying to attract his female. Absolutely beautiful bird. And that's with the female. So she's also very big. Oh, by the way, this is the bird, the sunbird with the longest bill. So he has a very long bill compared to the others that I've already shown you. And then she also has a very, very long bill. So if you see a brown female and you don't know what it is, if it's got a super long bill and it's a fairly large-ish type of sunbird, then it will be the malachite's female. Weavers, we've got quite a few weavers. This is the southern masked weaver. That's probably the most common one. That's the male in full breeding plumage. So only when he's breeding does he have his mask on and his bright red eye and a black bill. When he's not breeding, he loses all of those feathers, and he's not yellow and he's not black, he's brown. He looks just like a female. And his bill goes back to brown. Isn't that amazing how they can do that? I just find that fascinating. So these birds have to molt twice a year. They molt into their breeding plumage and they molt out of their breeding plumage again in the same year. This is the Cape weaver. So this is the only two types of weaver that we get here in Franschhoek, is the southern masked and the Cape. The Cape, when he's in breeding, he gets this red wash around his face. His eye goes white and he gets the super black bill. This is the female, and when he's not breeding, he looks like this. So his eye goes brown, he loses the black bill, and he loses all this red wash around his face. Amazing what they can change. And then also part of the weaver family are the bishops. So we do get bishops here in Franschhoek. This is the yellow bishop, and it's busy morphing. So this is what it looks like when it's not breeding, and then it starts getting its yellow feathers on its back first, and eventually it will look like that. So he goes from that brown to this beautiful velvet black with this big yellow patch on his back. And then this is the female. We also get the red bishop, which I'll show you now, and the females look exactly the same. You can't really tell the difference just to look at them. If I measure their wing and tail, then I can tell the difference, but to look at them, you can't. But isn't that beautiful? Oh, so stunning. And then this is the red. So this is a male busy going into his red color. So they look quite ill. They look like they've got a disease when they're busy changing. But once he's changed, he looks absolutely stunning. So we do get red bishops here in Franschhoek, but they're quite rare or irregular. The yellow bishops are by far more abundant. Okay, water birds. I'm just going to give you a couple of ducks. This one at the bottom, I've had to, I took two different photos and I put them together because I didn't have one complete one. This is an African black duck. So African black ducks are always in pairs. They don't like big open water spaces. They like channels and they like rivers. So you'll see them going down the Franschhoek River. And I hope you all know where the Franschhoek River is. It runs through the town. You cross over it when you go to Montrechal Wine Farm, wine estate, then you're crossing over the Franschhoek River. you'll find them in that river and at the dam, in the river channels at the dam, not on the dam itself. And then, of course, this is the yellow-billed duck. So yellow-billed duck, very, very common. They're everywhere. They're often in big flocks. Yeah, they're very gregarious, those ones. You can see them really easily because that bill is bright yellow. And then there's a hammerkop. So I put this here because when I first came here, I did see hammerkop here, but I haven't seen them in years. They are very associated with water, although they're not ducks or anything. They don't have webbed feet, but they are usually where there's water. So I put it here because I want to, if any of you ever see a hammerkop, please let me know, because it's quite concerning that I never ever see them anymore. Now then, what they're famous for is this monster of a nest. They make this absolutely ginormous nest, and they fill it with all kinds of rubbish. Look at this. This is an envelope that they've picked up and shoved into the nest here. They are famous for using the weirdest things. They've even found hammerkop nests. This is so big, they found car tires on the top of this that the hammerkop has put there. So it's like they use all kinds of plastic and rubbish and whatever to make their nest. There isn't a nest here, but there is one. The closest nest I've seen is at Val de Vie. So I haven't been to Val de Vie for many years. I don't know if it's still there or if it's being used. So if you ever see a hammerkop, please do let me know. Then the herons, this is the grey heron that is always associated with water. And then we get also the black-headed heron. So these are two different herons. This guy is the one who stands on the side of the road, very still with his neck up. He's looking for frogs and little snakes and little lizards and things. This guy's always at the water. So you'll, very common. The black-headed you'll see all over the show. The grey one, not so much. And then the corvids, these are the three types of crows. This is called a Cape crow, but we don't get it here. You have to start going up the N1 towards the Karoo before you start seeing Cape crows. The middle one is the pied crow that everybody knows. And then this one here with this very thick bill is a raven, a white-necked raven. So we only have one raven in South Africa, and it's this one. And the pied crow, everybody knows. They're terrible, and I don't like crows, but they very intelligent, as you probably know, and they have a good job. They clean all the roadkill off for us. So they serve a purpose, but they are horribly aggressive, and they really just kill so many things, which is why most people don't like them. Okay, the migrants that we are going to get at the beginning of September, hopefully, are these two. The barn swallow, well, the white-throated there, and the barn swallow. The barn swallow is the one that comes from Europe. So we get the British ones, the ones that are breeding in the UK. They come here for their summer holidays. And then the white-throated, which is this one, he only goes sort of, he's intra-Africa, so he goes into about Central Africa and then comes back. He doesn't go much further than that. The barn swallow does not breed here. They breed in Europe. They come here for holiday. The white-throated swallow breeds here. And then this is the other one, which is the greater striped. So this one on the right-hand side is the one that comes here to Franschhoek. We do not get the lesser striped swallow. I just put it here so that you can see the two. It's confusing because of the word lesser and greater. This looks like it should be greater because the stripes are much bolder on this one. This one, the stripes are very, very light, but it's to do with size. The greater is a much bigger bird than the lesser, and that's why the names are like that. This one, the lesser, you find up north in the Kruger Park, but the greater stripe is the one that you'll find here in Franschhoek. Okay, then we're almost at the end. I just want to tell you about contained exotics. So this is a, what do you call this? A chaffinch. It's a chaffinch that was brought here from Europe, but they only occur in a very, very small place. It used to be the Tokai forest, but Tokai forest has now been cut down. So they've dispersed a little bit because their main habitat is gone. But they're not invasive. They're not taking over the whole place. So we're not too concerned about them, but they're definitely not from South Africa. And then we do have an invasive problem, which is this mallard duck. So mallard ducks are not from South Africa. They were brought here. They're terrible because they are interbreeding with our yellow-billed ducks, and they are diluting the breed, and they're making very strange hybrids. So we're trying to get rid of them. So if you find any mallard ducks, you should also just let me know, because there's a specific place that we contact to tell them where the mallards are, and they come and get rid of them. So yeah, just if you ever see them, you can just let me know. And did anybody guess? This is the answer to our question this morning, or this evening, should I say. It was a Cape Robin baby that I showed you. Did any of you guess that? I'll have a look at the chat and see if anybody even tried to guess. This is one that I ringed in Andrea's garden on Saturday. And that's my story. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something. I'm going to just take that off now so that I can see you.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Screen sharing has stopped. There we are. Sure. Okay. Are you all still awake?
Yeah. No, it was lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Robyn. I really enjoyed it.
It was enjoyable.
The only what I want to add to yours is the Southern Bobo.
Oh, yes.
Why haven't you spoken about him?
Yeah. Not that common, so that's why I didn't think of putting it in. But yes, definitely, yeah. They are in Franschhoek for sure. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I've ringed a couple of them as well, and they're very noisy. You can hear their call before you see them. Yeah. Let me see. Did anybody try and guess what my bird was?
Wil jij nie raai nie?
No, so no.
I thought it was a cuckoo.
Did you think it was a cuckoo?
On Afrikaans noem ons hulle koekoek.
No, it was a Cape Robin.
Is it a Cape Robin? Okay.
Yeah, it was a me bird. That's why I chose that one.
Okay. No, I've got no birds that nest up. I mean, I've got plenty of birds up on the farm, but there's none that I've got no nests.
They're probably there. You just don't know that they're where they are.
They most probably, yeah. But I mean, they are there. But as I said, I've never seen a juvenile.
Mm.
So yeah,
it was a trick question. Don't worry. It's all good. I was going to give you one of these.
You tricked us all. You tricked us all.
I've got, by the way, I've still got some of these bird books left if anybody needs. I think I've got 3 left. The brand new Sassel bird book with all the updated names and everything in it. It's really awesome. And then I've got a couple of these. It's a little checklist. So when if you want to start keeping a life list of birds, then you tick them off on these. Okay. Anybody have anything that they want to know? Any questions? Are you all okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. What did I want to tell you? Okay, so I did ring over the weekend. Loved it. I had so much fun. I ringed 3 birds in Andrea's garden on Saturday, so that was quite slow, but that's okay. And then on Sunday, I went to the wildflower garden and I ringed 33 birds there. So that was, it was so busy, and I was on my own, so I was just running from net to table to net to table. That was hectic. Because you don't want to keep them in the bags for too long. You want to get them out. So it was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I will do that again, and you're welcome to come and have a look and just see how I do it if you're interested. But I'll let you know when I'm going to go there again. The wildflower garden is behind the museum. So the museum complex is closed at the moment. It's locked. The gate is locked. So you actually have to climb over the wall. Okay. So I had to climb over the wall with all my equipment and everything. But they know that I'm there and that I'm doing this. So they're quite happy for me to do it. But I just have to climb over the wall. So that's all fine. So if you want to come watch me, you also have to climb over the wall. Yeah, okay. So the next meeting next month, I'm hoping to get the guy to talk to us about butterflies. Okay. So it will also be a Zoom, probably, I assume, because we don't know when the government's going to tell us that we're allowed to have gatherings again. If we're allowed to have a gathering, then we will. But if not, it will be somebody that will give us a talk about butterflies. Okay. I hope that interests everybody.
So was I yawning?
Did you not like that one, Kim?
No, I'm
We're in front of the fire here.
in front of the fire. Robyn, we have a couple of bird feeders, and we have that the nectar feeder as well. But we had to stop that last season because of the bees.
The honeybees.
The honeybees came in there.
Yes. So you know what? You're just making it too sweet. You must cut your sugar by half. That's why they're coming there.
So
It's a well-known problem, and that's what they've decided, that is how you solve the problem, is you make it less sweet.
Okay.
So give it a try and see.
Okay.
You know what somebody told me from conservation, they said that it's actually not so good, these nectar feeders that the people put out, because the sugar birds do not pollinate the plants as they're supposed to pollinate them, because they are lazy. They're coming to the gardens, and it's easy to get the sugar water in the garden instead of going to look from one flower to the next and pollinate on their way. So yeah, for every positive, there's most probably a negative.
I really don't believe that that's true. There are so many of these birds. So if you go to the wildflower garden and into the mountains, it's full of sugar birds. So those sugar birds are there pollinating those flowers as they're supposed to be.
Yeah, as I say, it's just somebody from nature conservation that told me that. So
there's always people who are not in favor of this. So, but most people are, and it really doesn't affect anything. It doesn't stop the proteus from flowering. And they've been doing it for 20 years. So I don't think it has such a big effect. In winter, it's very useful to do it, because there's, at least not in winter, in summer, because there's not a lot of proteas in summer. Proteas generally flower in winter. So in summer, the sugar birds don't have the proteas to go to. So you can give them water. But it's, I don't think it's not stopping the flowers from blooming. So I don't think it's having such a major effect on them. But you don't have to put the red coloring in. A lot of people are concerned about the red coloring is not good for the birds. So sometimes if you're just starting, you put the red coloring in because it attracts them. And then your next bottle, you can leave the coloring out and you don't need to put it in.
Can I just ask a question about the actual sugar you put in? Because I've heard that if you do not buy the proper ones that they sell at Agrimark, if you just put ordinary white or brown sugar in, that is very bad for the.
No, that's not true. That's Agrimark trying to sell their product.
No, I used sugar and then I felt so guilty because they say it kills the birds.
No, it so doesn't kill the bird. No, I promise you it doesn't. You shouldn't use brown sugar. You should just use ordinary white. Is that not true? White sugar. Yeah, but no, that's Agrimark trying to sell their product. No, we've been doing it for 20 years, and that Agrimark stuff didn't exist then. No, feel free. Make it with white sugar. Just don't make it so sweet. You can make it less sweet, and then you won't get the bees.
Would you know the quantity, Robyn, in sort of in a liter of water?
Yeah, but you don't, the bottle's only 750 milliliters. It used to be, I used to do 4 cups of water to 1 cup of sugar.
Okay. 4 cups.
But you can make it less. Don't make it a whole cup of sugar. Make it about 3/4 of a cup of sugar or half a cup of sugar. They'll still it doesn't have to be that sweet. But I know lots of people have problems with the bees, and so that was the solution, was to make it less sweet. So give it a try and let's see. Because it gives me such great pleasure for these birds to come and, they're sitting less than I don't know, what is this, 20 meters away from me and feeding.
Jij
It's
zit
wonderful.
niet hoor. Is toch?
So awesome.
Je
Especially
zit
that
niet
Okay,
black
well,
amethyst sunbird. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'll let you know about, I'm sure it will be the butterfly guy. I just don't know the exact date yet. It'll be a Wednesday night, but which Wednesday next month, I'm not sure yet. I'll let you all know. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you. If you
very
have
Thank you,
any
Robyn.
questions, or if you
Thanks
see
a
a
lot.
bird you don't know, please send me a photo or something. I love to do that.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
See you.
See
Well, and thanks
you.
again.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Nice.
Lief.